You are currently based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Is that where you are now?
Yep, Grand Rapids, that's where I'm at. That's where I live. It's where my family and friends and music community is, and it's cool. I like it here. You guys should visit sometime.
Okay, so you consider it your stomping grounds.
Say that.
You consider it your stomping ground, so to
Yeah,
speak. Yeah.
most definitely. Yep,
Of
yep. I've
course.
been here the last 5 years and grew up in a beach town like 45 minutes away from here. So this is very much home.
Nice,
Of course,
nice.
of course.
Mhm.
Yeah. Does it help being close to Detroit at all, being in the music scene and being close to such a big, almost like music mecca? Does it help being in Grand Rapids?
In ways, yeah. I'm not really associated with the East Side music scene too much. I'm on the West Side of the state.
All right,
It
all
would be
right.
nice to infiltrate there at some point. I'm just kind of getting things together at home.
Of
Um,
course.
but it's like a halfway point between Detroit and Chicago. So a lot of bands will come through on the circuit, and it's really nice. With the more people that find out about here, we're Beer City, USA. I guess we have like a bunch of breweries and stuff, and a lot of people are interested in coming and just hanging out in the city and seeing what it's about. And a lot of bands, once they come through here once, will keep coming through town, and that does help us out here locally a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Of
It's kind of a
course.
low-key little town, but everybody that's here is really, really amazing. All the musicians are great. All the art is great. You know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I guess having it almost be like this port city, almost is this city between, you said, Detroit and Chicago, and having big names go there, it almost gives this halo effect to the local bars or almost the venues that are there, where if local musicians play, there's going to be people there because the venues have been played by big names.
sure, sure.
So I
Yep.
guess, yeah, it's just using
And
a
it's
marketing term.
and it's like it's not as fast paced as those bigger places are, which I think
Okay.
is really nice for a lot of us. I think that's why we like hanging out here is it's not so much like a competition or like the rat race kind of deal.
Yep.
We
Of
all really
course.
enjoy each other's company and enjoy playing with each other, and just
Of
taking it at
course.
like a slower pace.
Yes, it's more holistic and more communal and more with an ebb and a flow, one would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep, yep.
Do
And
you
the rent's
find
cheap here, so we don't have to hustle as hard to like make rent and like make things work like that. Which I
Yeah.
think adds a really huge it's a huge factor into our artistry and how we can approach our day-to-day lifestyles.
No, of
is
course, of
is that
course.
reflected in the art, you think?
I think so. I maybe I'm biased. I'm not sure. I think great art is created in any kind of situation, you know.
Sure.
Some people just approach it differently, and I think our approach here, if I'm able to speak generally, um,
Mhm.
is just let's kind of take it easy and just let things kind of manifest organically.
Of course.
None of us are really trying to like get in a van with like six people and like go hit the road super hard because we have a really supportive base here. People come to our shows and they buy tickets and they buy our merch and we will go out and stretch out, if opportunities arise, but it's a cool spot to just be at, you
Sure.
Of
know.
course.
A lot of us are like really happy here, you know,
It's
and we still
cool.
turn out great music and like I said, and it's so accessible, like we're all so accessible to each other, so a lot of us will like collaborate on different projects and whatever else, and I think that's really cool. I think it's cool to be a part of, you
It,
know.
it,
It
it really
sounds
is.
like that community approach, like you started saying how it's not a competition. Everyone's like working together and trying to grow. That extends to the audience as well. Uh,
Mhm.
it sounds like, and that's fascinating. Is there like a way that you can identify that you're people have like created that culture that includes the fan base?
Yeah, it's a way to measure that. Yeah.
How do you mean, I guess?
Like, is it an active choice to include, I guess, the fans in the community? Are they just that supportive and you're benefiting from it, or are you like pulling that out of them as well?
It is like being like, we slow down and like take the time to like build rapport with people and like become friends with other kinds of people in the community. You know what I mean? Like I make a point to go and like have beers with the guy that like fixes my car, or like have, you know, local restaurants and stuff that we all frequent, you know, and have our connections there, and find ways to have, you know, there's tons of different community events where everybody gets to mesh together, you know, whether it's visual artists or photographers or musicians, and getting all the local bars and venues and stuff involved in that. And we're just, I guess there's a sense of being really proud of being from Grand Rapids here, you know. And we pride, like we make a point to go out of our way to support these different things going on, and our artists, for sure. You know, we have a big event, Art Prize, where, you know, people come from all over the world here and do that, and, you know, they involve local music and all that kind of stuff into it. Excuse me.
Wow.
And I don't know, you know, I don't know, maybe that's kind of an indirect way of like answering that question.
No.
We do involve the audience, and like I think a lot of us, when we're writing and thinking of, you know, in that direction, are thinking about people specifically in our community, and not just like, you know, maybe fantasizing so much. It's really geared towards whatever's happening in our area, you know.
Yes.
And there's just a sense of pride here, I think, you know.
Yeah. That's beautiful to me.
Yeah, and it extends through everybody, you know, and all different kinds of people show up to come listen to music and whatever else, and it's, you know, they bring their families, and it's cool. People feel that, you know, this place is growing and it's worth sticking around for, and kind of watering the grass here, you know.
That's it. That's a good point. Yeah. It seems worthy to invest in with music and creativity. Yes.
Sure, for sure. And there's a lot of philanthropy that comes through, you know, that different heads of the community delegate down to the creative level, which, you know, so there's a lot of community funded projects for us to be involved with, you know, and, you know, they want us to perpetuate our crafts. The heads of the city want us to do that, you know, and they're asking how they can be supportive of that. And we're involved in those conversations, and it's really cool. You know, like I have a friend that's, you know, trying to start a Grand Rapids Guitar Festival. What a great idea. Can't believe that that's not happening here. You know what I mean? And like it's just at this cool point where people are starting these things, and it's growing at an exponential rate, and people want to get involved, you know? And so even though it feels like a small kind of town sometimes, having that happen is sweet. You know, like everybody gets to feel like they're doing something, you know. It's just at this cool point. So I hope that answers it, you know.
You make it sound like the city is one big passion project.
It is, and that's such a good way to put it. Like, oh, that makes me excited kind of thinking about it like that. But it is, you know, people put their heart and souls into this place, you know.
So I don't know a lot I want to learn about you now. So like,
let's dive in.
Yeah, man. Yeah. What kind of music you do?
All sorts. My personal music is like kind of like some like heavy soul rock with like a little bit of Latin influence, and, you know, I mean, anything I've picked up along the way. You know, I started out in blues bands, and, you know, kind of moved into playing with country bands and reggae bands and psych bands, and, you know, and all that stuff, you know, kind of melds into whatever you're doing, you know. There's all these cool little tricks and stuff, and, you know.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that's what makes art, like what makes for interesting art is uh, combining things that had not previously been combined. And
Yeah,
that's like, that makes like revolutionary music. Like that's when a new style is defined. It's like, it's just a blending
yeah,
of things that already sort of exist most of the time. And that's the way to
for
do it.
sure. Yeah, and like utilizing technology sometimes, I'm
Sure.
more of like a classical method kind of guy. I like writing string parts and horn parts and all that kind of stuff and integrating that whenever possible. But I love like all the cool software and ways that you can like create music, and so it's been, yeah, it's been fun to figure out and bring different styles together, doing like funk and country or like like
Yeah,
whatever.
that's amazing.
uh and
Do
just
you,
making whatever. Yeah,
sure, man. Do you still like actively seek out new music, new sounds, new like genres?
sure, yeah, like, and it's I think a lot of it is like environment based when I'm
Yeah.
writing. I was just in the mountains for 3 weeks and wrote this kind of like folky, kind of funky kind of tune, or whatever. And but I just have my classical guitar with me, you know what I mean? And like, so, but all that stuff can translate. Music is so cool because you can come up with an idea or whatever, but it can translate into different genres,
Absolutely.
however
Yeah.
you approach it.
Yeah.
And I've always found that interesting. Like one thing when I teach sometimes, and one thing I tell my students, we'll go through, I'll show them like a lick or whatever, just like a quick little thing on guitar or whatever, piano. And then we'll play that in like 7 different styles at different speeds and like really get it ingrained so they can use it in any kind of situation.
Right. Right. Right.
And I think that's a cool way to develop your language
Yeah. Yeah.
musically.
Because yeah, you could have the same notes played like 1,000 different ways.
Right.
You'll have a different song or a different sound
Yeah.
at least. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
And since I was a kid, my dad is a professional musician. He does a lot of like bar gigs and weddings and stuff like that. So I heard him playing, all these different kinds of songs, but with his own like little flair in it. So I could hear like this commonality between these
Yeah.
different styles of music and just always found that intriguing.
Yeah. Guitars have like a voice,
Yeah.
like a distinct
Yep.
voice. But yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
fascinating.
Before, how in Grand Rapids it's very communal and there's a holistic approach to it. And I was doing some research on you as one should before an interview, and I've come to gather you were originally a solo artist, and
Yeah.
then you came to form the Elijah Russ Collective,
Yes. Yeah.
which you released an EP with. The transition from solo artistry to collaboration, why? And what compelled you to do that?
Well, I've always loved like playing in bands, and I played in like when I was like in high school, I had a high school band, and after that there were like a couple different creative projects, and always loved the band aspect. Didn't love the idea of having like 3 or 4 different girlfriends, you know what I mean, at the same time, because this is kind of what it felt like. It was just having to keep up with people very intimately.
It's like the quote from Family Guy. It's like all the worst parts of a girlfriend.
Oh no. So, and then I did like a duo project with my little brother, and just kind of felt like I was like doing a lot.
Of course.
And kind of just took it back to seeing what I could do solo. And I wanted to play full time as well, and it was just easier for me to make backing tracks and go into bars and make $200-300 or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then I I just got tired of doing that, and I was like, I want to do band stuff again, and kind of write in that aspect and not play 2 tracks, be able to like have improvisation on stage and
Precisely.
let people take over and you know, play with great musicians and be able to demonstrate their talent, you know.
Yeah, there's an energy there.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, the people in the community here are so awesome. Like, I love giving drum solos to my drummer, David. He's just like amazing, and I just like to stand there and watch him play and create platforms for these people to like do their thing over, you know.
Yeah.
Of course I love to like write music, and like it is my project and whatever, but they play the music so well, you know. So that's a really cool thing, I guess. And they're some of my best friends, you know. It didn't start out like that. It started out, you know, everybody's schedules were hectic, and it was a new project, and I couldn't like pay people as well as I wanted to. So I had to use different musicians a lot, and that's kind of why it became the Elijah Russ Collective, you know.
Yeah.
But now it's pretty nailed down to the people that I want to have around, and very fortunate for that, you know.
Of
Amazing.
course.
Did you have the vision like from, not you didn't have it from the start, but as it started coming together, like were you determined to keep it together as things were tough? Or
yeah, for sure. And learning to be flexible, you know. We all have different projects that we're involved with, you know. Like I play for like a Nashville country band, you know, and we'll have to be busy doing that sometimes. And we all play for this like corporate wedding band, you know, we're busy doing that sometimes. And then everybody else has their own creative projects. So, and we just like learn to work around each other's schedule. For me, it made me really put a priority on being able to pay my people really well, you know. One, because I want to take care of them. Two, so that they hold the date on their calendar and I can depend on them to be there.
pragmatic, I get it.
You know, it's important, and you know, and now some of them have kids and stuff too, so I'm thinking about that. Like, it has to be like a workable thing for all of us, and taking all of those factors into consideration as like foundational truths, you know, kind of forces you to step the game up pretty quickly, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a, you know, it's just kind of how things have been manifesting. It's not anything that anybody really planned on, you know, or whatever else, but it's working. And then when we can make it work, it seems to grow every time, you know, like the shows keep getting better and better, the pay keeps getting better, you know. And I don't feel like, none of us really feel a need to go out to like Nashville or LA or whatever and try and like make it, you know. Like, we just want to make a decent living and like have a good time with our friends, you know. And like, amazing. Just to be able to do that, we're super grateful for, you know. So I guess it's really just growing it at that kind of rate, you know, and doing it like super locally, you know.
It's much like in advertising. If you need it, it doesn't need to be advertised. So if this is believable and it's good music, then it's going to sell and it's going to be enjoyable. And as you said, people are going to buy the merch because they feel proud to wear that t-shirt. They feel proud to belong to the community and the collective that you're creating. It's kind of like this big blur, in a good way, this big blur, like, and it keeps eating everything that it comes in contact with, but like in a good way.
In a good way, in the most positive way we can demonstrate, you know.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and so I'm working on my first like actual like studio album, and I'm putting out 2 albums at the same time. One's just like a small lo-fi hip-hop project that I've been like having fun with or whatever. And then one's like a passion project. It's called Sandcastles, and that's the album with the collective that, you know, I've written string arrangements and horn arrangements and choir arrangements for, and just am really dumping everything into it, you know. So, you know, for the album release show, I want to have a 15-piece band, a small string section, small horn section, choir section. But the cool thing that I'm really interested in this project, I'm writing a book for it too, to kind of talk about both of those things and just use it as like a timestamp sort of deal to just talk about that whole period of time that all of these songs are written. So combined, it's like 14 songs between both of these projects, right?
Of course.
And I basically got a list of local artists whose art that I dig, and I sent them all 3 songs a piece, and I was like, just pick one, whatever one you like, make a piece of art for it, and I'll put it in this book that I'm going to get pressed and like disperse it through the community. You know what I mean? And then, in the book, each chapter is a song, but then having sections where I'm going to talk about like my favorite local places to eat and favorite shit to do around Grand Rapids and like whatever, and just use myself as a platform for my community. It's basically kind of the approach behind it. And it can look so different. The music can be any kind of way, and the art can be any kind of way. But I think the essence of it is still there. I think that's a cool thing. I just want to do it, whether other people dig it or not. Anybody I've talked to has been like, that sounds cool. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, kind of cool, right?
It seems to be the common denominator of a lot of creatives is to well, I guess a better way to say it is the mark of a great leader is how they are training a successor, or how they are thinking about leaving a legacy, or what kind of problem solving they're doing currently for their community in their lifetime. And it seems to be the driving force of most creatives when they want to create is because they want to include. It seems to be this fundamental, visceral feeling of acceptance that's throughout all of humanity, and what better way to approach that or create a portal for is to access is through art.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the community of that artists create, and the personalities that artists are as humans when they come together in a collective such as the one that you are planning to create. You become bigger than the sum of your parts, and that's pure synergy, and that's pure innovation in a separate way, other than going to the moon. It's the way that artists on Earth leave their mark and make their legacy, and I feel very much so. So people can say that's cool, but it's more than just cool. It's something that's beautiful, and it's probably people can't really understand, really see completely, because people can only see so much as they comprehend. But it's big. But of course you understand that.
The way I think about it too is, I was talking earlier about people bringing philanthropic dollars to town, and like we want more people to do that, so we get higher paying gigs and higher paying opportunities, and I think any opportunity we can get to put something like that in somebody's hands to just demonstrate all of what we have to offer in one package, is kind of like an elevator pitch to these higher up.
Like a one page.
Yeah. It's a little bit more involved than that, but what I'm kind of getting at is like we 100%. Want our, as much as we love it being quiet here, we do want it to be on more of like a national map, right? And for various reasons, we want bigger bands to come through, we want things to grow here, and our people to have more opportunities here. And so I guess I'm just trying to do my part, and music and collaboration, I think is what I can do right now.
Your part, and whatever way you feel compelled to do, and it's right at the time what feels right, follow that gut, follow that
Do you have touring then on the to-do list in the future? Like you grow your scene, and then do you have to spread it then?
Yeah, I'd love to do that, if the opportunities are right for us, I said, I don't want any of my dudes to be sleeping in vans, like I want to grow it from home to the point where promoters in other places feel comfortable bringing us into their town.
Right. Yeah, you seem like a great mascot for your city.
I appreciate that. I don't know. I'm not,
Or
you
at least
know,
some light.
we don't feel the need to go begging from other bigger cities. And maybe that's a harsh way of putting it, you know?
Sure.
Uh, and I think creatively, like if other places and maybe that's kind of arrogant, you know, but if other places want us there, they can, you know, they should be able to treat us like they would one of their own, you know, or
Exactly.
treat us even better as guests, because that's how we treat people when they come through town. You know, we treat them very well, you know, anything they need, we're here for, you know. And that's why people like coming back here and playing, you know. It's important to us to take care of people and not, you know, it's not this like corporate madness here. You know.
No, as and it shouldn't be.
And not to say that that is like the sum of any big city, you know. There are good pockets, there are great pockets of, you know, places everywhere.
Of course.
It's just, you know, we don't really want to go looking for them too hard. We'd rather create like an organic connection, you know.
Yeah, that's time spent not working on your art. It's time going over there.
Yeah, and I mean, we would love to go over there, just like I said, under the right conditions, you know.
Of course.
I think that's where a lot I've had, you know, myself and like various other bands have had these discussions where it's like, no, we're fine here until, you know, until it comes up, and some bands leave and do really well for themselves, you know.
Right.
But everybody comes home for you know. So I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to sell my city or whatever. I don't know. I love it. Love it here. We do.
Yeah.
You know?
Good. You need to love where you're at.
Yeah.
I just wish every other city was the way you describe yours, man. That's all. Like, it sounds beautiful. Like to just be supported by the people around you. I was thinking a minute ago that I imagine the collective would not be what it is today were it not for the supportive community that you're in. It might still exist. It wouldn't be the same. Like
Sure.
it must influence the progress that you have, and that's it. You as an artist, and the quality then of the art in the city is at a much higher level than it would be were it not for the support of the city. So like there's practical use to being supportive of one another if we endeavor to create good art, at least.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's almost like this weird like selfishness too, though. Like we all want, you know, to manifest our creativity, but we're all supportive enough to like put our things down sometimes. And if somebody needs a drummer or a bass player or a keyboard player for their thing that's important to them that night, all right, cool. If this is a big deal for you, then we'll drop what we're doing and all, you know, make that happen, you know.
Let them have it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I feel like that, from what I hear, I'm still pretty young in this game, you know, but from what I hear from older musicians and just older people in the community, that's not like super common, you know, to be able to share band members and, you know, have an arsenal of great musicians to choose from, you know.
Everything is better for everyone.
And to be able to trust these people too, to do, you know, show up and do their thing and do your thing, you know, well, you know, it's just a lot of respect for each other. And
of course,
love that.
We recently interviewed Ray Beats. He's based out of New Jersey, I think, right now, and he was saying very similar stuff about how it's kind of you focus on your community and you focus on the music that's there, and it's not really about making it big and like going to the point where you have to sell it out, but rather you can just make enough to eat, make enough to feed your family, make enough to just get by, and that's kind of a goal for many artists.
Yeah,
I've
like just to
heard
be able to
that.
do that and like make music is incredible. To be
Yeah.
able to travel and like still go home and do music full time or do it wherever, it's like unbelievable. It's so cool. It's like what a blessing um and it's being just like comes down to being grateful. um how much do you really need? you know and
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It's like, yeah, we all like to be like a little bougie every now and again and like buy things for ourselves, whatever. Factor that into your budget, adjust your work and lifestyle to that accordingly. For me, I like to reduce the amount of hours I have to put in to maintain that lifestyle as much as possible.
So there's a quote, and I forget who says it. All a musician can do is get closer to the sources of nature and to feel they are all in communion with natural laws. And that takes me to ask you, do you believe music is the expression or perhaps the joint hinge where spirituality and humanism can meet, almost acting as a portal in a way to access things not always seen or felt or are previously elusive to the senses without music?
100%. Yeah, I mean, and even as like a listener too, and seeing people really do their thing, and like get a sense of feeling from that, I really obviously when I started playing began to experience that too, like when you're really driving or whatever. There's a sort of disconnect from, I don't know, some sense of reality, where it feels like a channeling kind of thing going on. And even just going to really great concerts. I remember seeing Derek Trucks play for the first time. He's one of my favorite guitar players. And just like feeling the electricity in the room, just run through me, and everybody else, the revelations that we have as human beings when we're at concerts and the moment's right and the situation's right,
Yep.
those are beautiful divine interactions,
It's beautiful.
that we all get to, we get to experience that together, and that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
However ephemeral, they're potent. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's interesting to be in the same room as all these people, like sharing that experience. And then you could like take it one step out and consider that with radio, you're not in the same room necessarily as somebody who's having the same experience with you, but they're around. You are sharing that experience like in the universe. And then we've gotten farther away from that. We're into just streaming now. And like that might be something that's lost a little bit.
It could be, but the fact, I guess still listening to music on Spotify and whatever the artist was putting into that, carrying through, even through a digitized recording, still being able to comprehend emotion and some sort of experience from that is like very powerful.
Sure.
There was oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
It's to elaborate on what you're saying rather, but there's when I was scrolling through Instagram, there was this science experiment on the placebo effect on rather if intent is necessary for when you're doing like mindfulness or meditation, or if the act of it itself is enough.
That's an interesting concept. Yeah.
Like it's very right. And I was blown away by it. And the results were the hypothesis was done and studied. And the theory was such that intent, and even if you don't fully have it inside of you at the moment, the process of still doing it can affect. And so when Matt was saying, if you're not to make it similar to being in a room together, to feel the same energy, for it to have the same potency, or even having the musician have the full intent in his song, it can still have an effect. Music can still have an effect. There's still something there.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go through all channels. And that's what it's a sense of channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to Matt's point too, that I think that's one thing that a lot of people paid attention to coming out of the pandemic was the experience of live music, you know, and that it is different, you know, and that it should be valued way more and appreciated way more than perhaps it was, you know.
I miss it.
Yeah, we're still waiting on it.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just saying how I can't go. I would be in a coffee shop right now getting Wi-Fi, but nothing. I can't sit down anymore.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. I forget you guys are in a different country. Oh man.
Countries, different stipulations. Yes, of course.
Yeah. You guys are much more polite than our people here. I think people got tired of being stuck up and, you know, and they're Americans.
give me my art.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no sense of urgency for there to be a kind of, we speak up, but right now we're very focused on Native American issues. I feel that that's where a big focus of our time is going. But yeah, there's no sense of urgency in Canada. I don't know what it is with the citizen, or if it's the type of living that we have here. I haven't really deduced it, but yeah, it seems Americans have the sense of urgency. It's kind of like they're always consistently fighting for the sense of individualism. And
yep, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's, I'm sorry, I keep looking away.
Oh no, it's cool. We can switch gears.
There's two quotes I came upon, and I found them very interesting because they kind of contradict each other. The first one is, I consider myself a poet first and a musician second. I live like a poet, I die like a poet. Bob Dylan. And the second being, you can't stay the same. If you're a musician and a singer, you have to change. That's the way it works. Van Morrison. And that leads me to think, is there any person, and you can help me elaborate on this, is there any person who can claim the definition of artistry? And, or rather, if it's just simply subjective, then what is that intangible driving force for creatives that causes them to create?
I think it's a combination of those quotes. When you live like a poet and you're observing the world and trying to, I guess, like portray your lens onto the world in a responsible way, that requires you, in a sense, leveling up as a human being. You know, we go through things and we have our experiences and we learn to talk about them through our art, you know, and that helps us grow and get to the next point. And those things just keep happening, you know, so it's the cycle of, you know, highs and lows and whatever else. But being, you know, walking through the world as a poet, I think allows you to you have to use all your senses and be aware of your situation and how how you personally are moving through whatever situation, you know, and that awareness and intuition that we should learn to trust more. We do learn to trust more, and that grows us as people, and we learn these lessons. You know, sometimes they're really hard lessons, sometimes they're not, you know, sometimes they're fun ones, you know, and all that grows. And again, being able to talk about that through your art, whether it's in song or, you know, whether it's in a painting or whatever, or a movie or whatever, you know, passing on that knowledge to whoever, you know. Some people claim it be the next generation. I think it's for all of us, you know, young and old, you know, if we're observant of art that's being made around us, and and thinking of ourselves as creative individuals, whether we practice that creativity or not, allows deeper access into the human experience, you know
Yes.
and songs are, things that we all can kind of agree on. There's like a moral there, there's a story there, poems and stories, there's all kinds of things that we learn to like agree on, and that gets passed down through generations and whatever else. And I don't know, is that kind of like a tangent?
That was great, and you're spot on to say it's a combination. Yeah.
Cool.
Is it when you endeavor into a new genre or a new sound or whatever you're doing that's like different than what you were just doing, is there a nervousness committing to it before you do, or is it optimism?
There's a lot of optimism there, but that's through like just gain trust through life experience, and going into situations like nervously and kind of putting my all into it and just trusting like my ability and this gift,
Yeah.
And letting it just manifest into what it's going to be and being okay with that. And it usually turns out fine,
Yeah. Is it a sign of something good to come? If
I
you're
think
nervous?
so. Yeah. I mean, I'm nervous for different reasons, I guess. Like a lot of the time, I can just generally be a nervous person. I know what you're getting at, like, is like when I'm like, oh shit, is something like gonna happen? Not always, but I mean, even if it doesn't turn out the way I think it's going to, there's a lesson in there, and that's a good thing,
Sure.
So that thought alone, I guess, has been allowing me to be more comfortable going into the unknown. Because I'm like, whatever, like if it turns out terribly, I'm still gonna learn something and learn how to do it better in the future. So let's get it,
Yeah. Sure,
The
man.
unknown, the unknown can only stay unknown until you make it known, until you make your unconscious conscious, until you want to accept, right? People are just strangers until they're friends. So the unknown
Right.
will be scary for so long until it's not, and then it's not, and that's beautiful.
I love that people are only strangers till they're friends, and
Yeah.
it's true in so many situations, like take learning a different genre. Like when I first started stepping into country music, it's going in and like listening, and respecting something that's been there, whether it's a human being or a piece of music or whatever else, treating it with the utmost respect, learning the ins and outs of it, and then having a conversation, and putting myself into that, and I think, different people can approach conversations differently. Some people like to just go in and talk, and that's okay too. There has to be somebody talking, I guess, and somebody listening, but that's like how I like to approach things, is just being really observant, it's how I've been since I was a child, and then just feeling comfortable enough to like, I've gathered enough information, I think I can speak this language now,
Yeah.
and but also, like I'll go back to the country thing, like I walk into a country show and it's like, it's just funny sometimes because I'm playing for like really backwoods, like redneck people, but I can deliver them this experience, that they're familiar with sonically, and sell it to them like that, but still be able to put a piece of myself into it that might bring them into my world a little bit more, whether that's just through guitar or whatever, there are ways to do that.
Yeah. It's in life, I find often people want to reinvent stuff. They'll see a problem and they'll want to approach it completely different than anybody has before. But there's such value in what's already there. Like it's there for a reason, and it was built to where it is for a reason. And so to approach these things rather than trying to reinvent them, but trying to build on them sounds like what you're doing, and sounds like the way to do it. Because you have to respect what's there. It got there for a reason.
Right. You know, throwing Latin licks or Middle Eastern licks in at a country show throws some of those people off, but they're like, oh, that was kind of cool actually, because it's a little bit different, but it still sounded good and like whatever, you know. And just introducing different culture in these different situations, you know.
Precisely, yeah. It's kind of like a way of selling, when you kind of throw it in and make someone think it was their idea, like, oh, you don't know what you heard, it was just part of the song, don't worry about it, you love it, like.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, but being put in these situations too where I'm like, you know, God, I'm trying to be polite. You know, I'm gonna be impolite for a second, but just be like, yeah, you dumbass rednecks, like here's some shit that you haven't heard, you know, like, yeah,
let me teach you something.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
You know?
That'll be expunged from the
Having
podcast.
opportunities to shove it down the throat a little bit.
But that's exactly it, right?
You know, in a polite way though, you know, it's like, you know, try not to be too abrasive, you know.
Yeah, it's like when you have to put like medicine inside of a treat for a pet.
Yeah, dude.
You gotta trick him into taking it. Yeah.
That's a good way. Yeah. So you were saying you're dabbling in countries. So right now I have it that you are familiar with neo soul, funk, blues. You even have been practicing classical guitar. That's dope.
Yeah, yep. I did that. I guess I started doing that back in, I did a semester and a half of classical guitar.
Oh, no way.
A few years ago.
Where did you study then?
Just Grand Rapids Community College has a really good program that kind of will boost people into like Western or Grand Valley, and they have really good classical and jazz programs. So it was kind of intense actually, but it was a few years ago, and I actually ended up dropping out because I got an offer to tour with a blues band, like full time, and that was the first full time touring gig that was kind of on the table. And you know, I made a promise to myself when I was a kid, if I got a offer like that, I'd drop what I was doing. And so that's what I did, you know.
What was the name of the blues band?
I was Harper and Midwest Kind. So it was a lot of mid-range shows, but every now and again we do like really cool blues festivals, you know, and be like playing with like Taj Mahal and Kevin Mo and like Andy Frasco and, you know, and like some Snarky Puppy members and stuff. And you know, just like be in like wild situations, but then also be playing like dive bars every now and again too. So it was a wide range kind of experience, you know.
And I think you're like, you seem like a conductor again for the city. I guess both the train conductor and the one with the baton, like leading the charge, and maybe you're not. Maybe everyone there is as vocal and dedicated to it as you, and it sounds like they're as dedicated. But to have such a champion for the city and for art as a whole,
I appreciate that. I think that's speaking too highly of my situation. I think I just like to start conversations and like continue conversations, and anytime I get a chance to support people around here, like I will, and I'll talk about them, you know, and talk about how much, you know, I love this place and how dope it is to be here to everybody that I can, you know. There are people that work harder, and you know, people that hustle here pretty hard, but again, it's not a competition for any of us. I think all of our end goals are pretty similar, you know. Yeah, I mean, I try and connect people and, you know, do community events and whatever, but, you know, I don't want to be like a champion of the city. It's an honor to be thought of in that light, you know, but it really is like such a collective effort. None of us could do it without each other. I would have no platform to stand on without,
City of
helping
Champions.
us to build it. Yeah, there's just everybody here works hard, and and
yeah,
I like to just be able to talk about it. If this helps inform a new audience, and gets people to come down here, and sweet, like,
so let me put you on the spot then. Shout some people out.
Yeah.
So Mellophobics is a great band here. They're a 7-piece horn band. Some of their members are in my band. They do session work for me every now and again. Gunner and the Grizzly Boys are a country rock band, and that's a band that I play with pretty frequently. But they were well established before I came into the picture. And it's really fun to play with those guys. The Legal Immigrants are like a rock band, and they're so good. They have like some Jack White kind of vibes, and like, but really heavy, and just fun. Let's see who else we have around here. Lipstick Jody is a cool female-led band. They do a lot of like synth pop rock kind of stuff. Paddlebots are like a soul band from about an hour from here. And they're sweet. They're another 7-piece, really heavy hitting band. Groove Ground Music, my drummer D, that's like his pet project. And they're like a heavy funk slamming band, they remind me a lot of like Ghost Note, and stuff like that. Just some of the best musicians getting together. Earth Radio is another band. Earth Radio is really cool. They do like, they're pretty experimental. They use a lot of like effects, and they're kind of psychedelic, but they're well arranged. And their musicians are some of the like best musicians in the city. They're all like jazz trained, and they're like fusion musicians. Like they do fusion like it's nothing, Excuse me, but they mixed it in, and like kind of like sometimes they'll do like a pop formatted song, but it's like got all these like crazy extensive arrangements, and it doesn't sound like a pop song, it's just catchy and nice, and so yeah, those are some of the people around here, all heavy hitters. Like everybody I listed there, give them a listen, check them out, they're all like such great friends, and and it's just amazing to like go and see them play and like get my mind blown,
That's a good compliment.
Yeah, good friends to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you want to hang out tonight and blow each other's minds? Okay.
Yeah.
If that's a euphemism, yes. If that's not a euphemism, also yes.
And maybe it's like, like maybe it's arrogant or a little, whatever but that's really how I feel about it. And a lot of us feel that way. Like we're just like, wow, this is so cool. We get to be a part of this city in this moment in time,
Oh, wow.
It may not always be like this, but it feels like a renaissance,
You're causing compound monumental change that might not be seen, or rather it is being seen, but it's going to be seen in greater forms in the future, and that's going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You're incubating something there right now.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. 100%.
Throughout this, you've probably dabbled and it's definitely touched on it, but in your own words, if you could surmise rather, what is your mission or your vision as a singer, songwriter, guitarist, as an artist?
Personally, I just want to make music that chronicles my experience as a human, and that involvement that I have with other human interactions. And I want to play theaters and tell stories, you know. I just want to be a date on somebody's calendar that they dress up and go out to dinner beforehand and come and hear some stories and some good music. And I want to be able to pay the people in my band really well, you know, and, you know, just have a good time, throw a good party, you know, have a meaningful experience, you know, just have a well-rounded experience when people come to the show, you know.
Of course. That leads me to a poem, which I think would be a beautiful way, you know, through the power of the editing to kind of splice and put that at the end of this. But
Sure.
it's a poem called Achievement by Robert Louis Stevenson, if you don't mind. It's very short, and I'll just read it.
Yeah.
That man is a success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men, the love of children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he had found it, whether by an improved poppy, a perfect poem, or rescued soul, who never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had. And I believe that's a beautiful kind of synopsis of what I believe your vision to be is, just to successes can be as basic or as simple or as until you feel content.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great poem.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I have it hanging on my wall. Yeah, that's why I was looking up.
Yeah. That's really nice. Yeah. You know, yeah, and at this point in my life, you know, like somebody pulled, yeah, I'm not super into like tarot or anything, but you know, somebody pulled some cards for me and I got the Alchemist, you know, and I kind of looked into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And alchemists are people right about my age, you know, who like are learning as much as they're trying to teach, you know. And being at a point where like, all right, I've lived a little bit and like gathered some knowledge and experience, you know, and there will always be things to learn, but learning how to talk about that, it goes kind of back to that, is like learning how to talk about that and really process it in that way, just provides so much growth, you know, personally, and being vulnerable with people around me, you know, enough to be able to tell those stories and stuff opens the door for other people to do the same, you know.
Exactly.
And I think that's it, being able to share, you know, good stories and painful stories, and you know, but share nonetheless with each other and just feel that sense of camaraderie, you know. That's what I want to create, you know, is an environment where people can be vulnerable and, you know, feel supported, you know, in whatever kind of way that they need in that moment, you know, gearing songwriting in that direction where people can hear whatever they need to hear out of it, you know, be broad, but be specific, and, you know, just finding a balance everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
I think, sorry.
That's it. That's lovely. You guys both had really nice things to say. I got nothing.
I love this conversation. This is wonderful.
Yeah, I definitely like it. All kind of boils down to like that very simple phrase of "be the change you want to see in the world."
Be the strange you want to see in the world is what a local band called USS says, and I love that interpretation as well.
Be the strange you want to see in the world. That's great.
Really, yeah, captures the whole thing, I think. Elijah, plugs, brother. Plug your stuff.
Okay, at ElijahRuss is my Instagram. That's where I post everything. I have a website, ElijahRuss.com. I have a Facebook page. Helps to have likes on that if people want to do that. It's Elijah Russ Music, but Instagram is really my thing, where I really in touch with everybody. It seems to be the most effective for me, So that would be people trying to check stuff out. And then I have links from there to my Spotify and Apple Music and all that, Amazon Music, all that different stuff. All that's out there.
Nice. And we're looking for Elijah Russ Collective.
No, just Elijah Russ.
Elijah
You'll
Russ.
find. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. The collective is like the performing band thing, but
Got it.
Yeah, it just kind of helps me keep it straight.
Yeah, it's all your music anyway, right? It makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're looking at Elijah Russ everywhere.
Yep.
That's perfect. Good for you for having a unique enough name to pull that off or getting there early. Otherwise,
I got really lucky.
It's amazing. Elijah, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys, man. This was awesome.
I agree. We should do this again soon. All the best.
Yeah, man, I'd love to. All right.